Hi, David.
Hi, Nadira.
What is a risk register and why it's used?
The risk process generates lots of data. So when we're identifying risks, we have a description of the risk, we have a date on which we identified it, a person who identified it, we have a view of where it came from, the cause, and a view of what it could do to our objectives, the effect. All of that comes from risk identification. When we assess or prioritize the risk, we get more data. We think about how likely it is to happen, the probability. We get some size of the impact. We estimate the cost impact, the time impact, performance impact, reputation impact. We think about how close the risk is in terms of proximity. We give the risk an owner. All of these things are extra data from risk assessment. And then we go to plan responses and we choose a risk response strategy, and then we design some risk response actions. Each action has an owner. Each action has a completion date and lots of data. So it's important for us to capture that data in a way that's held consistently and safely, and that's one of the first purposes of the risk register. It's a register or list of all of the data relating to each individual risk. But why do we do it? It's not just to make sure we have data management and we capture all these things. First of all, it's to enforce consistency. It's to make sure that every risk is described at the same level of detail. You don't have somebody who says, oh, there's a risk that the building might burn down. And that's the risk. We need to know why and how likely is it, and what could it be, how bad could it be, and what are we going to do about it, and who's responsible. We need that data. So it's important that we have a consistency of description, and the risk register enforces that. It also enables us to do analysis. We can look for patterns of risk exposure within the risk register by analysing the content, analysing the distribution across categories, analysing the timing of the risks, so we can pick out the ones that need to be dealt with straight away. We can pull out subsets of the risk data, for example, the ones that I own or the ones that you own. I can get that information clearly and quickly from the risk register. It also gives me a record that I can learn from for the future. So at the end of my project or the end of my enterprise or my strategic planning period, I can go back to the risk register and say, here is a record of every threat and every opportunity we identified, what we did about it, and what happened. So it gives us that opportunity to learn by reviewing the record of what happened. So the risk register is a repository of all the data in a consistent format, in a way that we can use to assist our management and reporting of the risk, and also as a database that we can learn from for the future.
And when it comes to risk register, do we have different types of risk register within the organization at different levels?
Yes, we do. So you would have a project risk register, an operational risk register, you might have a departmental risk register, and you should certainly have a corporate or strategic risk register. Why? Because we have different objectives at each of these levels, and the risks are focused on the objectives. So the chief executive doesn't want to know all the technical risks within every project. He just wants to know what are the risks relating to the strategy of the corporate organization, whereas the technical expert specialist in a project or in an operational setting only wants to know the risks that they're responsible for and not for the strategic risks of the organization. So we should have risk registers at every level, focusing attention on the uncertainties that matter to that level.
Thank you, David. It was really interesting.
Thank you. I'm glad.